Hello everyone, this is Kyle with Eden's Vine. Welcome to our show today. What we're going to do today, the project for the day, is we're going to install a water line from our shop to our greenhouse. So let me show you how we do that out here, and maybe provide you with some, tips, tricks, and shortcuts if you're trying to do it yourself. Okay, I'm going to show you how to use a tractor to do it, and I'm also going to show you how to use hand tools to get this done. Okay, so just a real quick overview. Here's my box. I've got my main line coming in here. It's going into the shop. It's going through like Venturi injectors and all sorts of other stuff. Those are on bypass, but it can get to all of those things. Here, this line's heading out to the vineyard. This line is headed to the chicken coops and to the garden areas. And then this last line was terminated, and if you notice, I did not crimp down on this line, so this will come off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to interface with this. I'm going to hook up to this line, and I'm going to run this all the way over that greenhouse so that I have water in my greenhouse. So that's the plan for today. That's what we're going to try to do. Now, around my boxes, I like to hand dig, even if I have big power tools, because I don't want to damage my box. That makes more work for me. And I'm not looking to do that today, even though it's a real nice day. I just, I'd rather not have to replace this box. And then as I walk over here, you're going to see that we've got another box right here. And in this box, I've already got my line, and when I built the greenhouse out, I went ahead and ran this line under my railroad tie, and then it stubs up right over here. And so I've got plenty of line here if I want to put a hose bib, or if I want to do like a nutrient delivery system around the roof or something. Like if I need to spray this, which I don't really plan on spraying too much inside the greenhouse, but if I get like an infestation of some sort of bug or something, I might need to spray. And so I might run like some mist emitters or some spray emitters up there. And depending on how many levels or whatnot I want to do in here, I might be able to do some of that using this line. So, but right now I just have it planned for a hose bib. So, but from that we can do many other things. So that's the goal. We're going for a water line from the greenhouse to the shop where my water already was supplied, and then that water line goes out to the street, okay, where our meter is. So this is what we're going to do. Again, I like to hand dig next to my boxes, and you can kind of see that here. And I like to try to plan ahead. So I already pre-drilled a hole in this box and just left it here until I could get back to this job. And so today is a nice day to get this job done. So that's what I'm going to do. So this hole should be able to handle 3/4 inch PEX, which is what I'm going to run to here. Some of you guys might want to run bigger, larger diameter PEX. That's fine. It just depends on what you're trying to do out at your site. But here, 3/4 inch will work just fine. It's a little cheaper than the 1 inch. The fittings are too. And again, I don't need that much pressure or that much water supply out here at this little tiny greenhouse. But if you got something bigger going on, you might need a little bit more. Right over here, you can already see that I've started digging. Now, you could use a backhoe if you wanted to. I'm using my loader to dig this shallow trench. I just like it a little bit better. The hole's not going to be as wide, and I can control the width of it a little bit better just using my bucket. So I'm going to show you how to do all of this, and I'm going to show you how I would hand dig this, because before I had that, I hand dug many of these trenches out here. So I'll show you how that can be done. You could use a trenching shovel. That's how I started out doing it, but you can also use a big breaker bar, and I'll show you how to use that breaker bar here in just a second. All right, so here's our San Angelo breaker bar. I hope you guys can see that. Just pick this up at a local box store. It's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy duty, and you want one that's really heavy, because if you're breaking up really hard dirt, you just have to pick it up and drop it. And I'm just going to do this around my boxes I'm going to be kind of careful, but you can, you know, twist that bar as you're going into the ground. And you don't have to use your shoulders, you don't have to push in. I'm just lifting, you know. My shoulders aren't in the best shape. I, you know, played some hockey and messed them up a little bit playing hockey, so I don't really want to mess them up doing this. So I just lift it and drop it. Lift it and drop it. And I'm kind of staying in tight near my body, you know. I don't want to hold it way out here, it gets real heavy. So I keep it in and then just drop it and twist. And this other end has a spike on it, so if you've got really hard dirt, you pick it and drop it, you know. And it's an excellent tool to get you started so that you're not messing up your knees and you're not messing up your shoulders. And it might take a little bit longer than using the power tools, but if you're by yourself and you don't have the power tools, like how we started out here, all we had were shovels. You know, that whole vineyard was built with just shovels and a little auger. So we get this going, and then we take our trenching shovel, or you can take a regular shovel depending on how wide you want this. I don't want it too wide, but I wanted to show you guys how I do this. And then you just scoop it out of your hole. And you would just continue like that all the way for the whole trench. All right, well, enough's enough, and that's enough hand digging for today. We're fortunate enough that God has blessed us with a tractor, so I'm going to go ahead and use that for the rest of this job. All right, so just a real quick overview of this bucket. It's about 4 feet wide. I don't need to worry about the depth or what it can carry, because for this particular job I'm not trying to carry too much weight. So all I'm trying to do is take the edge of my bucket, find a spot on the ground that lines up with the run of my line, and I'm just going to take that bucket's edge and drive it down, and I'm going to wiggle it just a little bit so it sinks in. And then when it sinks in, I'm going to power up and I'm going to roll that bucket and scoop that dirt out and drop it. So this is the edge. It's not razor sharp, but it's, you know, for this application it's pretty sharp. So we're just going to take this edge, drive it into that dirt, then roll this bucket. Okay, and I'm going to show you what that looks like while I'm on the tractor. Okay, if you guys have any questions, leave a comment, ask me, you know, what I'm doing, what type of, you know, tractor this is, and, you know, why I decided to do it this way rather than using a backhoe or a trencher. Of course, I could go rent a trencher. That's another option here, and for some of you that may make more sense. But again, we've trenched out here and we've rented one, and if you do, you just want to make sure that you don't have any utilities in the line. You want to make sure that that depth is set correctly so you're not digging too deep, because again, you might have utilities that are 3 feet down, and so you want to make sure that you're over the top of them. With a little line like this, I'm not too worried about my depth. I just want to get it in the ground a little bit so it won't freeze in the winter time, but I don't want it too deep, you know, and I'm not worried about disturbing it. And if I end up disturbing it, this is a real short run for me, so I'm not too worried about being able to make that repair. So I'm going to actually kind of leave this one a little shallow, but this is a pretty good depth. That's about what I want, you know, just kind of like about a foot and a half in the ground. That's all I'm looking for. So this will work nicely for that. Backhoe, you can definitely get the job done with a backhoe, but it's got teeth on there. Your teeth are going to dig into the ground a little bit more and might disturb anything else you have in the ground. If you're worried about having utilities, out here in Texas we call 811 to come mark everything before we dig. Even if there are utilities in the ground here, I should be over the top of them, because all those utilities should be 18 to 36 inches down. I'm out in the back of my property. There's nothing out here, and we've had it marked before. So we should be good to go here. But even with that said, I'm going to be watching for that, because you hit something, it's gonna mess up your day a little bit. So if you're nervous about that, make sure you call 811 if you're in the state of Texas, or your local authority, and make sure they come out and mark. Lastly, same with the breaker bar. You don't want that hitting a water line or something, because that San Angelo bar will go into it a little bit, or kink it, or mess it up. So just be careful with whenever you're digging. One other thing I've noticed, is if you're at like an HOA, like you're kind of in the city or something, you have to be careful doing projects like this. We don't have an HOA out here, so everything's good to go. But if you do, or you live in a place that requires a lot of permitting for things like this, I just don't want to mislead you and say, oh yeah, jump out there and do this job. I mean, I live in Texas, so we jump out there and do a lot of jobs, and I kind of like it that way. So I hope you live in a place like this where you can jump out there and do the job. Just be careful doing it, and make sure that you've done your due diligence before you dive into something like this. Gonna go ahead and grease up the tractor a little bit before we get going. Done. I just put about 1 to 3 pumps in each one of my grease zerks on that tractor at each of the grease points. I like to do this with the tractor running, so I know the hydraulics are engaged. Some people are different. Some people say cut that tractor off. The safety manuals definitely say, keep the tractor off, when you're not operating it and not on it. And so that's what I recommend. I've just found it my way, and this is how I do it. But read your safety manuals, make sure you're doing it the way that's appropriate for your device and your application. Okay, always do that. Don't just jump right in and do it exactly how I'm doing it. I'm just doing it the way that makes sense for me and what I'm doing and the risks I'm willing to take. Don't take any unnecessary risks for yourself. Keep yourself and everybody around you protected while you're doing this. That's a heavy piece of equipment, and it can damage things really fast, so you gotta be careful with it, okay? But grease guns are awesome. There are different types. You'll figure out what works for you. This one works fine for me, but it is a messy job, so make sure that you're wearing stuff you don't really care about. to get this all cleaned out is I actually took my shovel and just, you know, just ran it down at the bottom and just made sure I moved all those big clumps out of the bottom of my trench, because I want my PEX to lay, my PEX pipe, I want it to lay at the bottom of this trench, and then I want to cover it up. Now, another thing I like about using the tractor for this is just the walls of this trench are extremely smooth, and the bottom of the trench comes to this nice little parabolic shape. And so my my PEX is going to sit right in the bottom of that trench. So I really like how it does that. Now with the backhoe, you get this flat bottom to it, and sometimes it has like little hills in it. With a trencher, you would get another flat bottom that may be a little wider than what you need. So it's just my preference for how I like to do it now. You guys will figure out your own way to get this done. With a shovel, same thing. You want to kind of make that bottom kind of, you know, parabolic, in my opinion. Now, one other thing we need to talk about is right here. We've got right here by my box, if you notice, I dug down and then the elevation kind of shifts there. So I'm kind of angling up to my box. You may or may not want to do that. It just depends on where your pipe is sitting in that box and what else you have around the area and what you plan to do with this area. If you're in a garden area and you plan to till like 6 to 9 inches or deep till, you're going to want this hole even deeper, and then you might even want to come up under your box. Okay, so it just kind of depends on what you've got going around your area. All right, so y'all make sure to plan it out and think about how you want to do it before you really get going. And I mean, some things you're going to run into, and you know, you just need to deal with them as they come up. But you know, especially if you're gonna disturb this dirt again, you want to make sure that pipe's well into the ground. Okay, but anyway, there's what we got. So I'm going to clean up my box areas with the first method I showed you. I'm going to use that St. Angelo bar and breaker bar and break it up a little bit more, get it down a little deeper, and then I'm going to lay my PEX. Broke my box just a little bit at the bottom. I'll show you in just a second. All right, so this is what I was saying. If you get too close with that bar, you're gonna break stuff. And as you guys can imagine, with the tractor, you're gonna break even more stuff if you're not careful. So that's just a bar going through there once, and I'm sure you guys heard it on the, you know, on the video, but that's not too bad. It'll be fine. It's not, this box isn't destroyed, but it did break it a little, so you gotta be careful. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this little 1-inch paddle bit, this little Diablo paddle bit, and I'm gonna go through that box over there, right about here, so that it'll line up with the elbow that I'm gonna put on this section of the line. All right, now before I do this, let me show you guys a little trick with this PEX. All of these unions with PEX, I don't want to bend that, but all of these unions with PEX, they move. So, and it doesn't break the seal, they just like to move. So I don't want to leave my line, even though I'm not worried about this section of the line, like I said earlier, I don't want to leave this valve or this line down here to be exposed by my paddle bit coming through. So I'm going to lift this line out of my box just temporarily while I work down in here in my box. And that's the same with all of these PEX fittings. You know, it's sealed up, no water's coming out. And as you can see, like, water will come out. Probably don't want to do that next to my electrical, but water will come out. But all these PEX lines they'll turn for you, okay? And that's really a benefit of working with PEX. So, all right, anyway, so that's a little trick. So I got my line up out of the box, and now we're gonna go ahead and drill through it. I'm gonna see if I can get you guys a nice little angle to it. Let's see. I'm actually going to run this backwards since it's plastic. I'm not drilling through anything real hard here. So I'm going to run this in reverse so I can go through a little bit more. So I can go through here slowly and with a little bit more control. All right, that's it. So I didn't run through it forward. I ran through backwards after I got it started. And it lets me sink in a little slowly rather than jumping right through there and risking the reality that I might hit a pipe. And if I do that, then I got a longer day. So there it is. Easy. All right, guys, so I have a not so good decision to make right now. It'll work either way, but I really want to make sure that I don't have to redig this thing. So what I did is I ran my PEX through the hole that I made, and it's coming in there. It's real nice. It's in a good place. I'm happy with that. Now I ran it down at the bottom of my trench, and I can use some like dirt clods and stuff to hold it down there if I want. But it's running. It's all the way almost to the greenhouse, and then oh no, it doesn't reach. Okay, so here's my decision. Here's my choice. Do I take another small piece of PEX I had lying around? Because this was leftover PEX from another job and just wasn't quite long enough. And do I put a fitting here and create a union and maybe put another little box in here? Or bury it and wrap it in that tape that PEX gives us. I can't remember what that stuff's called, but there's like a direct burial ground contact tape that you can wrap your fittings in, and it's supposed to last in the ground. Or do I go to the store and get a piece of PEX that's going to run the whole trench? You guys let me know what you think in the comments, okay? I know how I'm going to proceed with this, and I'll show you guys that in just a minute. All right, let's see if we can get these lines hooked up. So this is the main line. This is the main line coming in. It's going into the building. It's coming back out. This goes out to the vineyard. This goes out to the chicken coop. And then this is going to go over to our greenhouse. So we're going to hook our line to the greenhouse to this valve here. It might take a little finagling because it doesn't want to move too much, but we're going to see what we can do. All right, here we go. So we're going to get all this set up. So we get our clamp on. That's down in there. I'm going to go ahead and with this first one, because I know I don't really have a choice about it, I'm going to go ahead and crimp this on. And then we'll worry about the length of the other one here in just a second. All right, so that's on. And you notice I'll still be able to turn this in a minute, especially if I like put this on here. So I'll be able to I can still move it around some. Okay. All right, so we're gonna get this on. I want a straight cut. I want a straight cut across here. So I got a little bit of an angle, so I'm going to trim this a bit and see if I can straighten up that cut. All right. So yeah, that's pretty straight. So I'm going to put this on. There we go. Okay, and again, I should be able to go ahead and crimp that. And that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. That's the decision I made. Okay, that's on. All right, now this is the tricky part, because I got to make sure I don't cut this too short, or I got to start over. While I do have some materials to start over, I don't really want to have to. All right, there's that. Put another clamp right here. There we go. And now, since these things turn for me, see, they turn for me, so I'm gonna try to see if I can turn them and pop them together. I might have to make it a little shorter. Hopefully not. There. Went together. So now it's together. Now I need to crimp it. And the crimp's in the right place. So here we go. Almost in the right place. So I gotta turn that a little bit. Let's see if I can get another tool here. I really kind of want to get it out of the way of my knuckles too when I go to open and close this thing, but there we go. That's a little bit better. It's a little in the way of my knuckles, so I might come back just a hair. There, that should be good. All right, now let's crimp that one shut. There. All right. All right, that's all crimped up. Now we got to go to the other side. All right, here we go. We're going to connect these two pipes. We're going to use a valve to do so. So I just use my box here as a little bucket. I keep all my stuff in it. And so I've got two little clamps. And I'm going to go in here, and my main concern is I want clean pipe. So the end of this is a little messy, so I'm just going to cut a few inches off of this end here. There we go. Pipe's a little cleaner. I might do the same with this pipe because it hit the dirt. So just clean it up just a little bit since I've got enough. Now I've got clean pipe. Okay. Then I'm going to take my clamp, put that on there, other clamp, and I'm going to try to move these crimps to the bottom. I don't want to turn that around. All right. There we go. And I like my crimps on the bottom if I can, away from the handles. Sometimes you can't do that, but here I can, so I'm going to do it. There we go. other side. So like this one is likely going to have to be on the top just because go. Okay. So we'll go right there. There we go. They're all crimped up. Now, next thing we got to get in this box, we're going to put a coupler in there. So to do that, I'm going to need to clean the outside of this a little bit. Not too much. It's all coming off with my finger, so I'm just going to go that route. Okay, just get cleaned up just a tad. There we go. Alright. That way when we cut into it, we don't mess up the inside of our pipe, because I don't want too much running through there. Okay, so I'm going to cut right about, probably there's probably pretty good. Okay, and then cut it down right here. There we go. There's a little water coming through because I already pressure tested that just a little bit. All right, where's my coupler? Okay. So coupler. Some 3/4 inch clamps. Okay. There we go. Now we're coupled up. Crimp it. We'll crimp it and then we'll test this side for pressure. Pressure test it, and then we'll have to put a fitting over there to pressure test this union. Hope you guys can see this. I hope my big head's not blocking the way. Trying to stay out of your way here. All right. Let's see. Got a little bit of movement there that I don't really like. Let's see if I can. There we go. That's better. So the reason I did that is sometimes the PEX has a memory and it likes to bend, and so I just found a tool, I'm driving it into the ground, and I'm pushing back on that PEX to kind of just make sure everything's flush at the union and the coupler. Okay. So this pipe right here wanted to bend, and it was making it so that they weren't sitting flush. So I've got them more flush now. I'll show you what this looks like up close too when we get done. I'm done with that. I'm not worried about that other side. I'm gonna clean off this tool later because I don't want it to, you know, rust. It's a good set of needle nose, so. All right, there we go. We're all joined up. All right, let's pressure test it. We'll pressure test it right here first. Everything looks good, nothing's leaking, and I'm on back at the main. So, all right, so up close, what I was worried about is this little gap right here between the middle of the coupler and the PEX. It was showing a little bit too much of the barb in the coupler, and I didn't like that. So that's why I stuck those needle nose in there to push this back and make it a little more flush. If you notice, I only have a little sliver of PEX between the middle of the coupler and the edge of my clamp. So there's that, and then same thing there. Okay. So that noise was this coming out, and if you see, there's a little dirt coming out of it. All right, we got the hose, we got it cleaned out now. Okay, cool. So it's working. There we go. I didn't like seeing all that dirty water come out of there. I guess that's from the rain and the dust and everything. Just some time. So, all right. And here, we're back here, the main valve box. So just close that up and just pressure testing it. Nothing's leaking. Everything looks good. So we did it. Very good. All right, I'm gonna leave that on. I'm gonna walk this back out, and I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do next. The next thing I really want to do is put a hose bib right there on that thing. So, all right, here's the hose bib I'm going to use. Nothing fancy, but the way it comes off, I don't want this sitting up in the air like that. So I do want it to turn. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to 90 off of this. So I've got a 90. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get a few more of those clamps. I want to smooth that out. I don't want this to get too much shorter though, so I'm gonna kind of cautious about how much I cut off of there. All right, there we go. Okay, so we'll crimp that on. All right, there's that. I got a little bit more PEX, so I'm gonna shorten this up because I don't want it to be too long. So just a okay. We got this. Just a short little. Push this on there. There we go. All right. Crimp this down. Okay, and then last thing, this is a shark bite, so it just pushes on. They're pretty neat. They just kind of push on and grab. So that's what I'm gonna do. It's got a little barb in there and little pieces of metal that grab the PEX. I don't know if you can see the piece. Ah, there you go. You can see the piece of metal in there. Okay, so the barb goes inside the PEX. All right, and then you just push it in, just like that. All right, I'm gonna make sure we're closed up. Make sure we're closed. We're closed. And now I'm gonna open my valves and let's see what happens. Let me aim this away from me. And this is the nice thing about PEX. I can turn this stuff all around and it still has a seal. So, it's working. Woo! Yeah. Okay. So now the question is do I want to straighten this up? You know, do I want to straighten that up? And if the answer is yes, then I might end up taking like a small little T-post. So I'm gonna go see if I can find one of those little T-posts, might drive it in, and then to connect it, I might just use some like baling wire. So let's see what that looks like. All right, here we go. Here's our T-post. I don't know if you can see, but down there, I wanted to make sure that I didn't pierce the PEX when I drive this. So if you notice, I'm a little off from where that line's gonna be. So I know that line is angling back that way, and I know my wings on my T-post aren't gonna catch it. I'm gonna drive this straight down, and then we'll come in here and kind of sure this up, okay? All right, so that's the plan. That's what we're gonna do. All right, here we go. And at the top, to drive this post, I'll show you what that'll look like. I'm gonna take this here. I'm just gonna drive it down a little bit. All right, that's in. I'm gonna go grab my T-post driver and finish this off. T-post driver, it's got a hole, and on the top there's a big steel plate. Just goes over the top, and it's just drive this thing in. And that's good enough for me. Okay. Next thing, there's a little channel on the back side of this. So I'm gonna see if I can, fit that into that channel, just like that. Okay, and when I'm done, I'll show you what that looks like. But I got my baling wire. I've got some fencing pliers. You don't have to have fencing pliers. You can use just regular needle nose. Let me show you. So the regular needle nose will cut this stuff just fine, okay? And then you're just gonna take it and you're gonna wrap it around there, all right? And you can get it going with your fingers, and then once it's going, you can take your fencing pliers and really like grab it and start turning. And there we go. All right. And there we go. And I want to get that onto that post because I don't want it catching me or my little girl or anybody else. I don't want those. Those are sharp. So I want to get that onto that post the best I can. Okay, next one up here in the middle. And I'll just use and use your fencing pliers too. They've got a little hole, okay? And then you just, I don't know if you can see this. There we go. Okay, there's a little hole, and then it just comes around, snips it off, okay? Just a little, right in there, okay? The wire just goes right in there, just like that. And then you just open them up and it cuts it. Okay, get that on there, it twists it up. All right, and I'm gonna get my fencing pliers, grab this, and just start turning. and that tightens it down pretty good. All right, and then I'm just gonna make sure that's on my post. All right, and then the last one's gonna go up here at the top. Same thing, just put it on there, little snip. No, I cut that one a little too short. All right. The other one was a little too long for me. I didn't really like it. All right, here we go. This one's a little bit better. All right. So now I'm just grabbing it right there, right here, in there. Okay, really right in there. Okay. All right. And it, grabbing both the wires. So they need to be close enough that you can grab them both. And then you're just twisting them. Okay, and then they go down. And that's it. All right. There we go. I'll turn this around and show you what it looks like from the other side. So from the other side, there's our baling wire, there's our baling wire, there's our baling wire, and it's sitting down in this channel here. And so that added some rigidity to that line, that hose bib. And I like the way that that looks. Okay, now if I ever want to come back and do more with this, I have the option of cutting it down here, and I can tee off. And I can run that tee down the edge of my greenhouse. I can go the other way, I can go up, you know, I can do a lot of things with this. So, but anyway, it's working. There we go. Water in the greenhouse, there we go. All right, okay, last thing we need to do is we need to clean all of this up. Okay, and we need to install our box. So let's go ahead and install the box, and then we'll get cleaned up. Here we go. Just a little 6-inch box. It's gonna go right over the top of our valve. Okay. There we go. I'm just gonna take some dirt, push it around there. Okay, now the next thing I like to do with this is I like to foam my box a little bit. So I gotta find the straw. Here's the straw. This stuff's real messy. Super messy. All right, but I'm gonna foam. Let's see if I can show you. I'm gonna turn this around. All right, I'm gonna foam that entrance right there. And this stuff expands like crazy, so don't get too carried away. I'm gonna foam the edge. This is just the way I do it. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna foam that little entrance right there. Okay. I'm gonna foam between my boxes. I just got to be careful because I don't want it to impede that valve. Okay, and this stuff's gonna spread, so I just need to be careful. Same thing over here. And if it gets in the way, I can shave it down a little bit. But it is a bit of a pain to shave it down. So I don't like going too crazy with it. Okay. And that's about all I'm gonna do, because I do not want it to stop the function of my valve. And I already see a spot that might end up getting too big. So I went ahead and moved that out of the way. And we'll just have to see. There's another spot like right here. Okay, just want to get that out of the way. All right, so there's that. Okay, now the last thing we got to do is clean up and then push this dirt back in. Hey guys, sorry about that. For whatever reason, the camera cut off when I was backfilling the hole. So I want to go ahead and show you what it looks like, and I want to show you the two tools that I used to make that happen. Okay? All right, I used my bucket to compress the dirt just a little bit, but the main tool I used to push that dirt back in was my box blade, and it's right back here. So I just dropped that thing to the ground. And I just back up and push that in. Now, one of the things I did do, hey sweetie, yeah, come on out. One of the things I did do is I left a little hill in my trench, and I did that for a reason. I want to leave that hill so when it rains, this dirt can settle. If I level it perfectly, what's going to happen is when it rains, it's going to get a little dip in there, and it's going to end up collecting water, and also making it a pain for when I mow and stuff. So I don't want that. I'm going to leave a little hill here, and when it rains, it should settle out to level. Hey, say hi to everybody.
Hi.
You having a good night, Evangeline?
Yeah, I'm having an awesome night.
All right, excellent, excellent. So we just finished up this water. You want to take a look, sweetie? Come here. Come here. Go ahead, open that box. Can you get it?
It's a little hard.
It's a little hard. Turn this valve. Be careful with your knuckles. Can you do it? All right, let's walk out here. All right, let's check our box right here. Make sure we're open. It doesn't want it. There we go. All right, we're open. Okay, now come in here. Come in here. Oh, thank you for putting that back.
You're welcome.
Now turn this on, but watch out because the water's going to come out. Woo!
So then we can just put our bucket right under there.
That's exactly right, sweetie. All right. Hey, love.
I don't want to take a shower tonight.
All right. All right, well, we just finished up out here with this line and installation of it. So now we've got water out at our greenhouse. Evangeline and I would like to wish everybody a good night. If you like what we're doing out here at Eden's Vine, please click subscribe. If you have any comments for me, please comment. Feel free to teach me too. We love learning. We love doing things better. We love doing things faster and more efficiently. So feel free to comment and share what we could do better. All right, we're really thankful for you guys. And y'all have a good...
I want to do that. Click subscribe. Done it.
Y'all have a good night. We'll see y'all later.